Welcome to the Tinnitus Relief Podcast. Today I'm joined by George. George lives in Connecticut. He's an avid photographer, and he's someone who went through tinnitus treatment. I met George because George was on the group coaching sessions at Treble Health as a patient, and he shared a lot of positive feedback.
That it started to work its way down. And of course, learning all the various stress management techniques, the meditation, all the other strategies that I was using all helped to get it down. And now it's a 1 to 2. There are days when I don't even notice it. It's only noticed if someone were to ask me, how is your tinnitus? And then say, oh, there it is. So it's not something, it's kind of like the refrigerator that you know in the background and you don't even notice it's there.
That's incredible, George. I'd love to hear that. And after those first few months, how quickly was the progress? Let's say, 6 months or 12 months after starting treatment, how much better were you then?
I would say after 6 months, I was probably around maybe 5, 6 in sort of mid-range. And they were good days and bad days. Reinforcing the strategies is what really worked for me. Keeping, I want to mention that what I did from the very beginning, when I did the one-on-one counseling with the therapy group, as well as during the coaching and on the one-on-one with Dr. Tracy, I was always keeping notes. I'm very much a documenting kind of person. And so I call it my list of insights. And those insights basically served as guidelines to help me remember and also to learn the lessons that were to help me improve. And so it worked really well. I recommend that for anyone to keep track, because there's a lot to think about. There's a lot you can forget if you don't keep up with it. It takes effort.
What part of the coaching or the therapy did the most for you?
I would say the understanding of what tinnitus is about, that it's not something that's going to control me, that it's not something that's going to affect my life in a negative way, that I learned that I can get past it, that it's not something that will take over my life. I wanted my life back because I had a pretty good life. And once I realized that I can just drop that whole, baggage and not let it take hold of me, that life can be normal again, which is what it is today. I mean, I think I'm healthier now than I was before because of all the health kind of things, the better diet, better exercise, the meditation, being focused with nature when I walk the dogs, all those kind of things that make life a lot more enjoyable.
Something that isn't obvious here is that George started his journey with Treble Health by taking advantage of our free telehealth consultation. He signed up for a Zoom call where he could speak to a specialist on our team. He shared what he's going through, what he's tried so far, and we offered various solutions. One of them for George ended up being working with our team at Treble Health. So if you'd like to have a free consultation over Zoom call, then please look at the link on the screen right now. You can click that link on the screen, or you can look below in the description to schedule a free call with Treble Health. Now, back to the podcast. There was a coaching session where you had shared, that treatment for tinnitus can get someone back to living a full and meaningful life. And that really stuck with me. So your story has helped a lot of people. Now we get to hear some of the details. Did you use hearing aids? Did you use sound therapy? Tell us about that.
Sure. So because the one of the primary reasons why, at least what my doctors told me, I did develop some hearing loss in the high frequencies. I learned that very early in the testing. By the way, I did all the other tests as well to make sure there's nothing else going on. So I hooked up with an audiologist that is I still work with today. I see her once a year now. She just tests the hearing aids. I have hearing aids in both my ears, and basically they work very well in that I hear the full frequency, high and low, and I have no problem communicating and speaking at conferences and so on, doing presentations like I'm doing tonight for a planning and zoning commission. So I have the hearing aids. I also have the sound masker in the hearing aid, so that if I remember to put it on, I will use it maybe for an hour, maybe for 2 hours. Sometimes I go for a few days without it because it's just good background. But it's not something that I feel like I have to have every day. What I do every day, however, is I have the Oasis sound machine at night, and I put that on every night. I really enjoy, or I really appreciate the sound of a waterfall. So that's what works for me. I know different sounds work for different people. After trying different things, that's what I like. So I use that.
Excellent. I want to ask you some more questions.
Yep.
When I say the term white noise, what do you think of for someone with tinnitus?
Relief, because it helps calm the mind. When you're in the early stages, and I remember those pretty well, it's frightening. There's that fright flight kind of thing, which I had learned. I never knew that it even existed until I had tinnitus. And so the sound does so much to help with that habituation.
Now, what do you think when I say the phrase neuroplasticity for tinnitus?
That the brain has the ability to transform itself. It metamorphosizes in a way that it sort of makes sense. You know, human beings have always tried to make sense of their environment since the beginning of time. And I think in a sort of a micro sense in my own body, my brain has sort of acclimated to where the sound is no longer a threat. It's just there, and I don't even think about it. So it really shows that the brain is a lot more able to be changed in a way that I didn't think possible in those early days.
Now, tell me your thoughts on sleep for someone with tinnitus.
Yeah, that's a great question, because sleep was a huge problem in those first 3 months. I didn't get any. I remember some nights I don't remember getting any sleep. I might have gotten 2 hours, maybe three if I'm lucky. But after that first couple of weeks, I was pretty well drained, and I know my decision making wasn't so great. My doctor at first put me on sleeping pills to help me get back on track. I really didn't want to take them because I never took them in my entire life, but I did take it for about 2 months, maybe three at the most. And then one day I decided, as I was improving and getting better, I said, I really don't need these sleeping pills. So over a 3-day period, I cut back half and half and half until the third day I stopped. And I've never gone back. So I don't need sleeping pills. I have no problem sleeping. And I'm very happy to say that I get a good night's sleep every night. So, but sleep is so important. We as humans need it. Anyone who thinks that they can get by with less than whatever is a normal night is only fooling themselves, because it is such an important part of our biology, our well-being.
Absolutely. Now, at home with any family or spouse that you live with, and then at work with any coworkers or colleagues you work with, can you tell us about that? Did you discuss your tinnitus with them? How did they support you? Any recommendations for how to communicate this with the people around us?
Sure. Well, I think you first have to be trusting of people around you. I have a very supportive family. My wife, of course, knew about it from the very beginning and was very supportive. I also have a small office. There's only 3 of us here. So I did share it with the office to let them know that there was something different. I mean, they could definitely tell in those first few months that I wasn't myself. So rather than keep them guessing, I had to be honest, and they were also very supportive. And they could see how as the weeks went on, that I became, went back to who I was before.
Did this affect your work? Did this affect your Did this affect your quality of work or your concentration?
It did affect my concentration. I mean, during those few months in the beginning, obviously with no sleep, I wasn't at my best game, and so my decision making, although I was able to keep my business active, I did have periods where I was just not working at my full capacity. So yeah, it definitely I don't see how anybody could not let it affect their work habits and so on.
Now, you were part of the group coaching at Treble Health, and for individuals listening, they probably want to know, what did you learn? What are the takeaways? Do you have any thoughts or memories on what part of the group coaching allowed you to get better and find
Sure.
strategies and get relief?
Well, starting out with, I always appreciated the first 20 minutes when you gave a short narrative or lecture about some aspect of of tinnitus, whether it's TRT or how to deal with sleep and all the various subjects. So that was always very helpful because it it started to build up that resource of information that I desperately needed. Because if I understand something better, then I'm able to get beyond. Sharing and listening to other people was a big eye opener because I had never really had conversed with people that had tinnitus. It just wasn't part of my day-to-day life. So hearing that from other people made me realize that it is a much more common problem than people realize. So that was good. I could see that some people were really struggling depending on what level, what stage they were at. And my feeling was that I know I went through those stages and I wanted to see those people get past those early days. And so that is why, even when I felt like I maybe didn't need it as much, I still wanted to participate because I figured maybe I can help others. And that's why when I get asked by Treble Health, to do a podcast, I think this is my third one.
You
I tend to
yes,
say yes.
you're on the the loyalty card. By one more punch and you get a free sandwich. No, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And you did provide a lot of help to the other individuals in the call. I was reflecting how in the early stages, the fundamentals of what people need to focus on, I think, are sound therapy and the guided breathing. I think those two
Yeah.
components have some levers to help patients get better, especially in the first month of turning the corner. After that, it turns into more of, okay, what kind of cognitive behavioral therapy techniques can I do? Maybe a more advanced sleep protocol. What are your thoughts on in these early stages, sound
Sure.
therapy, guided breathing, how to get the most?
Yes. Yeah, that's very good that you bring that up because the breathing was probably the very, very first technique that I came across. And I got that from one of your YouTube videos where you did the breathing. There were, I think, 6 or 7 sessions that you did. And I
Yeah, it's called the
watched
seven day
seven.
tinnitus meditation challenge. It's on YouTube. If anyone wants to search that, you'll be able to find that for free.
Right. Thank you. So I did all 7 of those. And so that made me realize that how important the whole breathing thing is. So that is something I did religiously, morning, day, and night. And every night I would do it a couple of times, and that always relaxed me. And I understand the biology of why that happens, and which I never knew that before. So that was a real learning for me. And then the meditation, that is another aspect that I did every night. I did get one app on my phone that I liked. I don't remember the name of it, but it was an app that had guided meditations, and I used those to help me go to sleep. And I really don't need the guiding meditations. I can meditate on my own just by letting my mind wander. So I can do that pretty easily. And so the mind has so much to do with habituation, I believe. At least it did for me. And because the whole mindset is such a critical part of getting better. And also believing that you can get better, because that's another part. If you're skeptical, as I think I was in the beginning, and I know a lot of people are saying, hey, I can't, how's this ever going to change? Part of it is just acceptance, accepting that it will change. And once I figured that out, it made it easier.
So today, you're living proof that someone can have very severe tinnitus, that it can take many months to get better,
Right.
but gradually and persistently, you now are in a place where you seem
Right.
like you're essentially back to normal.
Right. And actually, before we got on today, I did the math to figure out how many months it actually took. It was somewhere between 15 and 16 months between getting tinnitus and finally being able to admit that I'm at stage 4, that I was able to get to that point. So 16 months, and I think that's well within the general range when people are proactive. I think it's 12 to 18 months, pretty much, I believe. If someone just sort of lets it happen on its own without going through a proper, or I would say proactive kinds of methods, it could take years. And I know some of the people that were in the coaching joined that had tinnitus for many years and it didn't get much better. So being proactive working at it will keep it as short as possible. That's the goal. We want to kind of get back to normal again. So I'm very pleased that it was only roughly 16 months to get to that point.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of our community and folks listening here, they maybe, between ages 50, 70 in that range, they may be wondering, hey, how much longer should I keep working? What kind of hobbies should I have? How do you approach that in your own life of, you're
Yeah.
obviously a skilled architect, and I'm just curious how you think about that.
Sure. Well, one of the things that when I was in the middle of my habituation, trying to get better, one of the things I had learned from the meditations and also initially from the therapy that I was getting is to keep in mind those kinds of things that make me happy. So between the architecture and the various pleasure that I get from photography, being a fine art photographer, I jump into that. So by diving into the things that I really enjoy, which is all about the creative process, that helped me focus because part of forgetting about the tinnitus sound and letting that just sort of go away is to make it less important and letting the important things, the priorities in life, really take precedence. And so I always tell people that keep doing the things you like to do because you notice as the weeks go on that your life is starting to get better. And also documenting, here's that word again, documenting as those improvements happen, because you may not even notice. And so by writing it down, maybe on a monthly basis, saying, what am I doing today that I wasn't doing yesterday or doing last week or last month? And I noticed that those kinds of things were coming back. And then I went through a dull, sort of a low period where I wasn't being very creative because I wasn't really working at it. As I started to get better, my creativity started to come back and sort of get revived, almost like reborn.
I love that. Now, moving forward, how much longer do you plan to work as an architect?
Well, I'm enjoying it. I plan to work for another few years, maybe 5 years. I'm not putting any number on it particularly, but I am enjoying what I do. We have a lot of interesting projects. You saw my new website that I just put out, and I'm also putting together a new photography website. So
What's the name of the website for folks who might want to check it out?
sure, it's Fellner Architects, Fellner Architects. So it's fellnerarchitects.com. So you can
Excellent.
check it out. It's on
Excellent.
the web.
Well, I wanted to bring that up because we like to talk about more topics than just tinnitus, and I think a lot of people can relate to this life stage you're in of, hey, you're very skilled at what you do. You might want to work for a few more years, but we're also aware that okay, there are other ways to spend my time other than working. What's
Absolutely.
your philosophy on that?
Well, that's a very good. This is something I talk about a lot. I've given lectured at conferences about this. It's all about balance. I write occasionally for the local AIA Connecticut newsletter where I talk about balance. So you might be an architect or an engineer or an attorney or an accountant or whatever profession, whatever work you're doing, but having something else to balance that out. So I'm not a workaholic. I only work maybe 35 to 40 hours a week in my job. I've learned to keep that pretty steady. And I also really value my other joy that I do in life as a fine art photographer, going trips to Iceland and writing books and doing programs and doing videos and all that kind of stuff. So that's all part of who I am. And I think that, not to talk about me, but just to talk about anyone, basically do those kinds of things and find balance.
I think it's very important and very relevant. It's part of healthy aging. It's part of keeping a healthy brain.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing that. Now, I like to ask patients, what percent better are you? So, from when this was really in its worst phase into where you are now, how would you describe how much better you are to people?
100% better. I mean, if just going from a 9 to 10 level down to a 1 to 2 is about as good as it can get. I knew from the beginning that it's never going to be zero. There might be some people that can get down to zero, but I wasn't expecting that because I'm being realistic. So I can live with it. And I remember thinking way back in the early days, if I can get down to a one and a two, I'd be very pleased. So I think I've achieved that.
If someone came to you today and said, I have a pill or a surgery, there may be some complications, but there's also a very good chance that you won't hear any tinnitus anymore. Would you take it?
No,
And why not?
I'd have to. I know I answered very quickly, but it depends on who it comes from. What's the source? If it comes from someone like you, then I might be more apt to believe it. If it comes from something on the internet, there's a lot of stuff floating around, miracle drugs and vitamins, and we've all seen those. And I tend to be skeptical that any easy cure is going to happen. It's not going to happen overnight. Maybe someday there will be, and I guess that's one of the reasons why I like to stay in touch with the community, like listening to some of the sessions that you put online, because I'm hoping that maybe one day I'll hear something that is brand new that might work. So
yeah, I hear some patients who get to your stage of habituation who say, well, even if there was a cure at this point, I wouldn't need it.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, that's a question that was never asked to me before, so it's an interesting question to think about, because I don't really feel like I need anything different right now. I don't.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm perfectly happy with the way things are, and whether I can stay at a 1 and a 2 or get to 0, it doesn't really make a whole difference to me at this point.
Yeah. Well, keep protecting your hearing around very loud noises, keep a healthy lifestyle, and keep taking amazing trips and photography. I love where you're at, George, and I want to highlight your story because we need positive, hopeful messages. And you're not an isolated outlier in the data set here. A vast majority of people get their lives back to normal. So very happy to feature your story today. Would you like to have any final words to those listening who have tinnitus and heard your story today?
I would just say keep a positive attitude. Think of the proactive aspects that I mentioned before. It's something you have to work at. It doesn't happen by itself, and it will get better.
Guys, this is George. Thank you so much, George, for sharing your story. If you want to reach out to him and his architecture firm or photography, George, where can our listeners and community follow you and connect with you?
Thank you very much, Dr. Ben. Appreciate it.
And where can folks follow or connect with your work?
Well, they can get on my website, and then they can send me an email, and I'm available. I'm here in Connecticut. So
and that's fellnerarchitects.com?
Yes.
All right. Guys, we'll see you on the next podcast episode. This is Dr. Ben with Treble Health. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Doctor.
I love George, and I love his story. We need hope. We need positivity, and George brings that all from a very pragmatic, analytical mind. If you'd like to book a free consultation with our team at Treble Health, you can do so by clicking the link on the screen right now to book your free call today. I'll see you there, and thanks so much for watching our videos at Treble Health.